Hello everybody. So today I'm going to be doing a sit down kind of style video. I know I look like this. I'm just wearing a sweatshirt, a pair of shorts, and I haven't even put my contacts in, and I don't intend to today. So today I'm going to be explaining to you what my health problems are. The things I have mentioned to you before, but I never got into full detail. Well, today I'm going to be getting into pretty full detail. Okay, so as far as you guys know, anybody who's watched my videos, if you aren't really close family, as far as you know, I have pain that basically keeps me from going and doing things or going to work or getting up sometimes, and just prevents me from doing everyday things in general. Well, if you know about it, then you know it comes with tingling and numbness and burning pains, and that's generally what it is in a whole, but you don't understand where it happened, what happened, how it happened, why it's happening. And the why it's happening, we have no idea either. We really don't know either, but I have everything written down. I have notes about it. This is just each little note for the topic to start about. So this has been going on for 2 years. It's been going on since May of 2017, and it's currently starting now. Today is March 4th. It's Monday, March 4th. So this started May of 2017. So I was at school and I was just sitting there doing normal class stuff. I wasn't doing anything that would have made me like have any sort of reaction to anything. I hadn't washed my hands with anything funny because they had asked me that when I was in the hospital. I was just sitting there and I just had my left hand just kind of sitting on the desk, and then I just kind of moved and like did whatever, and I kind of felt my hand, and like it tingled, like it fell asleep. And so I was just kind of waiting on it to come back. And when I was in school, our classes were, I want to say they're like 48 to 52 minutes long, and I was in my English class. So I was just kind of sitting there and I was writing with my right hand because I'm right-handed, and it started in my left hand. So I was just kind of sitting there and not doing much, whatever, and I just felt my hand and I said, oh, this is weird. So I waited on it to come back, not to sleep. I thought it fell asleep. And then towards the end of the class, I was kind of getting a little worried, and I was like, well, that's weird. And I looked at my hand, and my hand was really purple. If I can find some pictures, I will insert them here. I took some pictures on my way, literally walking down to the nurse's office. So I went to the teacher and I asked her, I said, hey, can I go down to the nurse? And she said, yeah, go to the office first. So I went to the office and they were like, oh yeah, honey, don't try to sign out, just go down. So I went down and the nurse was like, what the heck? She checked my refill, if you know what that is. If you know what the refill is, then you know that's when they pinch your finger and they look at the color of underneath your fingernail, and they time it how long it takes to refill from white back to like the pinkish color it's supposed to be. And mine took a really long time, and so I was just kind of walking around with my hand like this. Like I didn't 100% know what was happening. I was just kind of confused. I was like, oh, maybe my hand fell asleep for extra long. But then when she started feeling it and stuff, and she said it was colder. Well, at that point, I didn't feel much of my hand. It was just really, really tingly, and I wasn't used to that feeling. Today, I am super used to that feeling. I can tell the difference now between my foot actually falling asleep, because despite what people think, my feet, I can still have a limb fall asleep, but that's still a separate feeling to me now than what it used to be. But she was really concerned, and so she called my mom, and she told her what was happening, and she told my mom to take me into the ER. So my mom took me into the ER, and we went to Lutheran Hospital in Fort Wayne, if you know where that is. They didn't really know what to do. They ran all these, they ran blood tests, they had me pee in a cup, they were feeling my hand and stuff, and at that point, I think I was going on 5.5, 6 hours of my hand being purple and weird and tingly, and I was going from tingly into where I couldn't really feel it at all, but I could still like, I couldn't feel it unless you touched it. When you touch it, I could feel it, but it felt weird. And so it was beginning to be kind of later at night, like everyone was out of school. It was basically getting towards the late afternoon time of day, and they said, we don't know what's going on. I was 16 at the time, so they said, we're gonna send you down to Riley Children's Hospital. But we weren't allowed to drive, so they brought the ambulance. It's not like sirens or everything or whatever. They just transferred me by ambulance in case something happened. They made me lay in the bed thinking that it was something circulatory going wrong, which basically is like maybe I wasn't getting enough oxygen to my blood, or I wasn't getting what I needed basically for my limbs to stay whatever. So they made me lay in bed. They wouldn't let me stand up just in case it were to happen like super bad and it were to go everywhere or whatever, and or maybe I was gonna stop breathing. They didn't know what was happening. So basically they loaded me in the ambulance and they took me down to Riley, and they admitted me right away. We got down there, it was already dark. It was like 9 o'clock at night, I think. I don't 100% remember, but they put me in a room, and then I went to bed that night, woke up the next morning, and they had doctors coming in and saying, what is it like? What does it feel like? If you had to rate a pain scale on a scale of 1 to 10, what would it be? And I was trying to explain to the doctor that was coming in at that point, was a man, and he said, what does it feel like? And I explained it as, it feels like my hand fell asleep, but that it's just not coming back. So I could explain the tingly feeling, and I still to that day feel that feeling, but then I didn't know how it would be now. Then we just thought it was a temporary thing, that something could be fixed. Well, little did we know. Basically, over the course of a 4.5-day time period, they ran every test they could possibly think of on me to try to figure out what it was. Well, around day 2, my physical therapist that they had been giving me and stuff was coming in to work with me again on my hand, and I think at that point that may have been the first time he had been in there. So the physical therapist came in, and he took a look at my hand and stuff, and then he told me to sit over the edge of the bed. So I swung my legs over the edge of the bed. I wasn't like, I hadn't been up for a while. I was just kind of sitting. I think I went to the bathroom like 30 minutes before that. So no reason that my body should have been doing what it was. Basically, he told me to swing my legs over, and then he was like doing like that hammer thing that makes your reflexes go whatever on your like your knee and your foot and your ankle and stuff. And he looked at my leg and he started feeling it, and like I really couldn't feel a difference. Like I was just, he was asked me, he said, does any of this feel different to you? And I kind of sat there, and he did like these taps to my legs with like, he told me to say if it was sharp or if it was dull. And so he would do the sharp side, dull side, sharp side, dull side. But when he did it to my left leg, the farther down my leg he went, like from probably halfway up my thigh all the way down, it was really hard for me to tell, and that kind of freaked me out. That really made me think, what the heck, what's going on? And so then he put my legs side by side and was looking at the color. They turned the lights on, because I mean the lights were dim, but it was the middle of the day, so we still had light from outside. He turned the lights on, and he kind of used his flashlight to look between the 2 legs, and he said, has your legs always been like this? And we kind of like looked around. I was like what? And I looked down, and he had pointed out, he said, your leg, it's purple. It was purple like my hand was, and that was my left leg and into my left hand. My left hand never came back, not for quite a while, but like not while we were there. And then it started 2 days into it on my left leg, and we were like, what the heck? It wasn't in my right leg, it was just my left leg. So they thought, okay, maybe it was because my leg was dangling. But so then they put my legs back up, I laid flat, and I just laid there, and they said, try to lay as still as you possibly can. And my left leg was still doing it, my right leg wasn't. So then they were concerned about why it was traveling, why it was different and not in my right side. Generally, when stuff like that happens, they say it happens in both hands or both legs, or just one extremity, like one leg, one hand. But it was happening in one whole side. Like, it was somewhere around my elbow, maybe a little up at times, but then most time it was like from here down, so I could feel my elbow, but it was just like here down in my hand. Well, then we were really concerned. We were confused in what was happening, basically. So I saw rheumatology, I saw a cardiologist, I saw an orthopedic doctor, maybe thinking something in my bones was pinching something. They had me going they had me going crazy, basically, about how many doctors. At one point, I think we had 12 different people standing in that room, counting both of my parents. So both my parents stayed with me the whole time they were down there. My parents are divorced, but I have stayed in the hospital before, and they both stayed. I had a parasite when I was in 6th grade. It was just made my stomach all gross. Well, they stayed with me then. Even being divorced then, they still fulfill things doing as a parent, because that's what you're supposed to do, even divorced. So we basically just waited for what the doctors would say. We were really confused. We were half lost on what was happening, if it was gonna get better, if it was gonna go away. And so they said by day 4, they said about halfway through the day, we can't 100% figure it out, but they thought it was something neurological. So they sent me to neurology, and they said, here, basically, we don't know what's wrong. They saw this spot in my spine that they thought could have possibly been it. I had, I want to say it was like 4 hours I think it was an MRI, and I've had multiple CT scans done, I've had multiple MRIs done, I've had them done over time just to see if anything has changed in my body, and they really haven't. The only thing that had changed was that spot. Well, then looking further into it in the future, that wasn't it. So when I left the hospital, they gave me a cane. They couldn't give me a walker because it was happening in one hand, and for a walker, you're supposed to use both hands. If you use one hand, it will tend to favor one side and move to one direction. So they gave me a cane, and since it was my left leg that was bad and my left hand, you're supposed to carry it on the left side if it's used for your left leg. Well, instead I had to carry it on the right side. So I had to learn how to walk basically with 2 legs on my right side. And I just kind of limped my other leg along. Well, I want to say probably maybe a month went by, and then it had pretty well gotten better. It wasn't as bad, and I was able to quit using the cane for a decent period of time. And sorry, I keep fixing my hair in this. It's driving me crazy. So it got better for a decent period of time, and then probably 2 months after it had gotten better, it got really bad. It came back in my left leg and my left hand, and I went back to using the cane again. Well, after a while, it started in my right hand, and it would come and go in my right hand, but it was usually consistent in my left hand. And when I say it, I mean the tingling, the numbness, the burning. The burning didn't start until later, but I did experience a little bit of it when I was in the hospital for it. But basically, it was on and off at that point. But for the first probably week and a half of it, it didn't go away. And so I had left the hospital, and they just said, be careful, make sure you have somebody with you at all times in case you fall, blah, 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 blah. So they sent me basically everywhere. This doctor that I had seen, her name was Yvonne. We didn't really call her, her name was Yvonne Hayden. She works at Riley Hospital. So it's Dr. Hayden, but we called her Yvonne. We really, really liked her. It just kind of stuck. Her first name kind of stuck. She said a lot of people called her by her first name. So basically, we saw her, and she started me on this medicine. The medicine was called gabapentin, which, if you don't know what that is, it's like a medication that treats people with fibromyalgia, so it can help treat the nerve pain. and it worked. It worked pretty well. But then after a certain period of time, it started to wear off. So they would increase a pill and they would start to wear off again. So they would increase a pill. Well, after a while, it just stopped working. And then we called my doctor, and then we saw her, and she said, maybe we should try a different medicine. And mind you, for us to go down to the doctor down at Riley, because we live roughly 2 hours north of Indianapolis. So for us to go all the way to Riley is a long trip. We would go to the actual Riley Children's Hospital in downtown Indy, and we would also go to another one of their hospitals that was in Carmel, Indiana, and that's still an hour and a half away, but with traffic it's roughly 2 hours too. We saw her again, and we at that point we'd been going down there probably two times a month at least, 2 or 3, and it was insane. So we did that for about 6 months, but then we started going every 2 months and then every 3 months, and now I go every 6 months, which is really, really good. I would rather go every 6 months than multiple times a month. Well, basically, she started me on this new medicine that I'm currently still taking now, which is called Lyrica, which the generic term for that is pregabalin. And they started me on that, and it started to work. But when there was a time period of when I didn't take the gabapentin and between when I started Lyrica, and that was, I think, another period of 4 days. It got so bad. The pain was so bad, it basically sent my body into shock. I had this giant panic attack, and my mom was gonna take me to the hospital. So she was driving me, and then I felt like I couldn't breathe, and I was freaking out. It hurt so bad. And everything was on fire, everything tingled. It was just constant, but it was all over my body. Because when that had happened, it started getting worse. When I said it started getting worse after I had to stop taking the gabapentin, I couldn't feel either of my legs. And it was like that for a very long time, to where I could hardly feel my legs at all. I had to watch where I was walking because I didn't know where my feet were, and it made my legs really weak, and it was a big change for me physically and emotionally. Emotionally, that is probably one of the most, I'm gonna cry now, it's probably one of the most degrading feelings ever. Being put from a 16-year-old girl who plays sports, who does all this stuff, to suddenly having to use a cane like I'm 90, and then going from a cane to a wheelchair. I was in a wheelchair really on and off. It changed a lot for me depending on the day, and sometimes depending on the minute. It could be better one minute and really bad the next. Well, I had these episodes, as my mom called them. Some of them lasted 20 minutes, some of them lasted 2 hours, to where I couldn't move. I would just lay on the ground, lay in bed, just be wherever. I couldn't move, and I was just screaming in pain, and it's not fun. I'll tell you, it's not fun. I isolated myself in bed a lot because I couldn't get up and do things. I've passed out from it a few times from the pain and just being super, super worked up, obviously, about it. And it's gotten really bad. It has, and I'm grateful. Things are a lot better now. But to compare then versus now, then I would have time periods to where it would go away. It would be not there, or it would be very faintly there enough to where I couldn't really feel it because I learned to ignore it. I learned to just separate it. Well, then if you would have asked me, then the pain would have been like a 10 or 11 or 15 or whatever. Now it has changed my pain tolerance. I have not had, since I was little, I've had a really low pain tolerance. But since all of this, my pain tolerance has gone up so much. Like, what I used to call, what would be like a 15 is now like a 7 or an 8. So, like, I would usually say it was a 10, now it's a 5. Now it's just because I'm so used to the pain. My body is so used to the pain. Then it would come and go. Now, for the past probably 6 months now, 5 to 6 months, it has been constant. It doesn't go away. It's always at some point, it's always some point in a limb. It's always somewhere. Right now, it's kind of in my right leg, it's a little bit in my foot, and it's just kind of weird numbness in places. Sometimes it can be from my waist, like right here, to my knee, and that whole section will be numb and nothing else. So I have to realize that I'm feeling from my knee down, but I can't feel anything from here to here. Everything here is just numb, and then the rest of it I can feel. It's really hard to adjust to trying to move, trying to walk, trying to do things like that. Plus, along with this lovely fun stuff, I have a very, very intense hot and cold temperature difference. My one leg can be really, really ice cold, and the other one could be really hot, or the other one could be normal and this one could be cold, this one could be hot and this one could be normal. It's very interesting, and it's what my doctors like to call, I'm a medical mystery. They don't know what's happening. But I also have this really odd sensitivity to hot and cold. It's not like every time I feel cold, I'm sensitive to it. Sometimes it's normal. Even now, even though it's there all the time, sometimes I could be walking outside and right now it's like negatives. Not really, it's not negatives. Right now it is, we'll check. Okay, I don't know how warm it is right now because my watch isn't working. Right now it's probably anywhere from 15 to 30 degrees outside, which for Indiana honestly is just kind of like the normal right now. But it's still cold. I mean, compared to like 60s, 70s, 80s, that is freezing, literally freezing temperatures. So my body can react really, really severely, and it could just react smallly. So other times I walk outside and it's perfectly fine. Like, I mean, it still bothers me a little, but it's nowhere near the major bothering me kind of thing. Well, then other times I can get in the shower and I could turn on the hot water and be perfectly great. Like, I could do whatever. But other times I have to take a cold shower because the cold shower feels warm to me. It'll feel warm to where other people it's freezing and it makes them like really cold and shiver. But to me that's warm because the hot water will be like excruciatingly hot. Like, it's extra hot. It feels like when you burn your skin, that like where you feel like you should rip your hand away, like that natural reaction to get out. Like, you don't touch a hot stove and you're not able to hold your hand there for forever because your body has that natural like flight response to be like, no, don't touch that, that's hot. You pull yourself away. So I do that sometimes when I get in the shower, when I turn on the hot water. I don't know it until I feel it. Sometimes I can say this is gonna suck because I like try to put my foot in and my foot's really cold. So the hot water makes it feel really, really hot. It's kind of like when you have cold feet, like when your feet are really, really cold after being outside and you try to put them in hot water or you try to get in the shower and they burn. It's like that, but like when it's like seriously hot, you could times that by about like 3 or 4. And it sucks because then I have to take a cold shower. But at the same time, to me, it doesn't feel as cold. So it's not as bad, but to my skin, it's like it doesn't know. Well, basically, I recently went to the doctor, and I just saw a new doctor last Thursday. Today's Monday, so I saw the new doctor Sunday, Saturday, Friday, about 4 days ago. My mom, my grandma, and I went to the doctor, and at the end of this, I'm probably gonna put a clip basically saying at the end of this, you're gonna see clips of us going there and us doing everything or whatever. I may make that a separate video actually, just kind of explaining what they said. But I'm switching my medicine. They're putting me on a medicine that is actually, it's technically an antidepressant, but it's FDA approved to treat chronic pain. And that is the main reason why it's an antidepressant, because for people, when you take it, if it treats your chronic pain and you're not in as much pain anymore, or you're not in pain anymore, obviously you're gonna be in a better mood. So I had requested to the doctor when I went to the doctor that I had requested that I see a psychiatrist. I asked because I have been to one before. I didn't quite enjoy it as much because for a lot of therapists, I feel like they hang up on the fact of like, I was young, my parents were divorced, and I've only seen like, that may be honestly my first time. But then like going to school, like being at school and you talk to the guidance counselor, if you have to talk to them and you tell them, oh, my parents are divorced, the majority of them, not everyone, but the majority of psychiatrists think, oh, well, that must be why you're messed up in the head. Right now, I'm messed up in the head because I'm in constant pain, and my doctor said she acknowledges that. She does want me to go, and she said she thinks it's a really good idea. We're gonna go talk to someplace with psychiatrists and stuff. Like, we're gonna talk to them and see if we can find one that will really, really help with trying to deal with the constant struggle that this brings on. Because if I were to tell you or make a list of everything in my life that's been affected by this, it used to be just this specific list. Like, it was a big list, but it was still just this list. Now I could just say one thing and I could say everything. Everything has been affected. The way I do things, the way I pee sometimes. Honestly, sometimes I can't feel myself pee. Sometimes, TMI, you have to take a shit and you can't tell, or it's very real to me compared to me now. It seems very real and very struggling. But before, if you were to tell me, I would be like, oh, that's really gonna suck, and I'm not gonna be able to do that. But now, I don't know how I've done it. I don't know how, honestly, I've done this for so long and not gone insane. I'm slowly getting there. I'm gonna cry now. It's a very hard thing for me to talk about because it's life-changing, literally. And I feel for anybody who goes through anything similar or worse, and I'm not saying that this is the worst thing in the world, but it's the worst thing that's happened to me physically. And that's really, really hard to wrap your head around as a 16-year-old, let alone now I'm 18. Now I live in a house with my boyfriend who has a job, but he can't pay all the bills, so I have to work and pay bills, and when I can't pay bills and I can't work, it's up to him, really. And it comes with a lot of guilt because I have to have everybody help me. I have to constantly ask for help, and that's really hard for me because I hate asking people for help. I really, really do. I truly do. But at the same time, I know I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I hadn't asked people for help. When it's simple things like, hey, can you help me get on the toilet? Like, I can't count how many times I've had to have help sitting down or getting up or asking somebody to help me get the toilet paper because I can't feel my hand, or put toilet paper in my hand because I can't get it off to wipe by myself, and to shower. I couldn't shower by myself. My mom had to help me shower for months. And I mean, it's gotten better with the Lyrica, with the medicine I'm on now, but I'm switching medicines, so I could go through another rough period of time, but I could also get better, and I'm really optimistic about it. I'm trying to keep my head up about it because I know your mind-body connection is important. If you don't believe you're gonna get better, it can affect the results. But I wish I could talk about this without crying. I made it so far. But basically, I don't know what it is. Nobody knows what it is. We don't know how to fix it. We don't know what will fix it. I was in physical therapy for a while, and that helped. That really did help. But then with insurance, so they cover I think 20 sessions. So after my 20 sessions, the only thing that would make me be able to keep doing it without having to like pay a bunch of freaking money for is to go back to the doctor and for them to say, hey, you gotta do this again. But I had a really bad patch after I got out of it, and towards the end of it, which I ended it at the end of 2017, I think, was when I had, my last one was I think December 23rd or something along those lines. And I went there and did all my stuff, and then I stopped, and then I started getting really, really bad around Christmas and back into January. And it went again until, I want to say probably March of that year of 2018. And it was really rough. Well, then in March, on top of all of this stuff, I had my gallbladder out, and that's a whole different story. So that's added on to my issues, and that made my recovery a lot worse from physical therapy, because I couldn't get up and do all my exercises that I was supposed to be doing still. So I know, guys, I'm already sniffy, okay, but when I cry, I get extra sniffy. Oh my gosh. Okay, but anyways, they did give it a name. Sorry, I totally got sidetracked. They did give what happens to me when everything goes numb. They said that was called paresthesia. And that's what happens when your body goes numb, when a limb goes numb or something. They call it paresthesia. But we don't know what's causing it. We don't know what all the other symptoms are. They have one name, but that is like, my doctor that I just saw described it as, that's like saying somebody has a cough. A cough can mean you have a cold, you have bronchitis, you have pneumonia, you have all this other stuff, or you smoke, or it can just mean anything. But it's one symptom of something bigger. So the paresthesia is one symptom of something else going on, and the discoloration and everything about it and stuff. And if I have a picture I know that I took recently of my leg, so I'll insert it somewhere in here, somewhere over there. But I don't know how to explain it when people ask, and I figured that, you know, maybe I could get the video out there and just explain what's happening, and maybe somebody else knows. They have checked me for MS, they've checked me for fibromyalgia, and it's not either of those two things. They haven't done the spinal tap test for MS, but generally if they do an MRI and the CT scans and all that, they will see signs of it in your brain before, which is what makes them test your spine, and they just don't want to go that far if they really don't have to. So they said that they wanted me to go to physical therapy. So I'm actually going to do 2 different kinds of physical therapy. One of them is the normal physical therapist who you see multiple times a week, however many times a week they say, once or twice or 3 times, or however many times that they decide, and that's up for your physical therapist to decide. I was doing, I think, 3 times a week when I started, and then I bumped it down to 2, which was really good. And then I think right at the end, the last 2 or 3 weeks, I did 1 time a week. And that's honestly, I already know it's gonna help. I have an appointment this Friday, and I'm really excited to see it and to know and to basically everything. I have an appointment next Friday, not this Friday. I don't know 100% what is going to happen when I go, but I do know that it does help. So then the other kind of physical therapy, they're going to send me to, it's called equine therapy. If you know what that is, then you know. Sorry, I don't have a bra on, don't judge me. If you know what that is, then you know. But if you didn't, like me, you had no idea what the word equine meant. It means horses. Horse therapy, which we were so confused. And so the doctor came in and she said, I think this is a really good idea. And she started talking about it, and equine and horses are really good. And I was like, what's equine therapy? And she explained it. She said equine therapy is therapy of horses, when you literally ride horses for therapy or for therapy purposes. And it helps, they said it helps a lot emotionally too, because riding horses is like being with animals is a really good emotional support system kind of thing. But I haven't rode horses. The last time I rode horses was probably my freshman year, or the summer after my freshman year, I think. And it's been a few years, because I'm almost done with my senior year now. I'm doing online schooling, so I'm a senior right now. So it's been a few years, and before that, and I had only done it like I think 2 different days. It was like a day, and then the next time we went, we rode once. We just got on the horse, rode it for like, I think we rode it for like 5-10 minutes maybe, and then we got off. And before that, I haven't rode horses since I was a kid. Like, I was anywhere from like 7 to I think maybe until I was like 10. We rode a family friend's, her and her husband had horses, and they were trained to ride and everything, but we used to do that a lot, but then I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how things were working, and I still really don't. I know how to ride a horse. I know like the gist of it, but I haven't done it in so long. So they said that basically she wants me to find a place, and there's places kind of close to us. It's like a little bit of a drive, but it's not too bad. There's places closer that have horses to train, that are trained to do that. And they basically said that equine therapy is used a lot for people who have sensory problems, which is what I have. I have sensory problems like hot and cold and touch and everything like that. But they said basically that it's used for that, or people with autism, they also use it for that, like emotionally and physically it helps. They said physically it will help your sensory problems, helping align your spine, helping you have to hold yourself up, and it keeps your core up, and you hold yourself on with your legs, and it's really good therapy for the body and for the sensory issues that I'm having. And I'm really excited to try going back to therapy, regular therapy, trying that new kind of therapy, and I'm honestly ready to go to a psychiatrist, because knowing that I can't talk about it and talk about the whole thing in general without crying is obviously not a great thing. I mean, it's expected, because I know it has affected me in so many ways. It's unbelievable. But at the same time, I don't understand why. It's a very complicated situation. It's been a hard thing to deal with, and everything's different now. The way I feel, the way when you touch my skin is different. What I do every day is different. How I go about waking up, going to sleep, my everyday schedule is different. I take 4 pills a day right now for just to walk normal. I take 4 pills a day of Lyrica, and it's the lowest dosage possible, but they don't want to keep going because it makes me feel foggy, it makes me feel crappy. And they just don't know. They are basically trying to help and trying to get it to go away and trying to fix the problem, but it's no longer about just trying to fix it. It's more about trying to figure out what it is, but at the same time trying to minimize the side effects, or minimize or help the pain, manage the pain. It's a very complicated, hard situation, and I honestly wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for my family and the people around me, and my boyfriend and my mom and my dad and my stepmom and my siblings, and just everything and everyone in between. I'm gonna cry again. Oh my god, I'm such a baby. I don't wish it never happened to me, because it has changed me in so many ways. But at the same time, I wish it didn't happen to me, because it really sucks. I'm not in school, like actual public school, because of it. I am working, which is good. I'm working again part-time, which, knowing everything that I just explained in this video, I hope you understand how hard it is for me to do that on a day-to-day basis, and how hard it is for me sometimes just to get up. Sometimes I have to take a rest day and just relax and stuff, but I hope that seeing this video, somebody out there who's going through stuff understands, or it helps them understand that they're not alone in it, or that you're not the only person falling apart, and I've seen videos of people talking about health problems and stuff, and it has really, really helped me to feel like I'm not the only one who's struggling in an everyday basis to do normal things that you should be able to do as a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old. I'm 18 now, and I'm limited on the things I can do. I can't step outside sometimes because it's too cold for me, or I can't take a warm shower because it's too hot, or I can't pee by myself, and I can't get myself physically up and out of bed. I can't set up on my own. I can't eat my food. I can't make my own food. Somebody has to feed me. Somebody has to wipe my ass. Like, it's a very hard situation, and I just want to share it and get it out there and help people understand what's happening. And so when I talk about it in videos and stuff, and when I try to explain it, it's not confusing, or people don't get it, or people are like, well, what the heck, why can't you do that? I just really wanted to be able to explain it and get it out there and get it all off my chest and be able to tell my story about it, and hopefully to feel better about it. I am on 46 minutes of recording this, and I'm gonna have to cut this down so much. Oh my gosh, this is insane. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope that somebody feels better about a situation that they're going through, or somebody can relate to the situation I'm going through. And if anybody has any ideas on what they could possibly think it would mean, please comment down below. We've tried a lot of things, we've thought of a lot of things, we've used Google, which is not a good place to look, but at some point you kind of get lost and don't know what to do. My doctors are working hard, and I really appreciate the Riley Children's Hospital and IU Health connection, and just everything about it. I am thankful to my doctors, I'm thankful to my family and my boyfriend and everybody who has ever helped me, and I'm really, really glad that I have people who support me in this and who help me and who don't expect the world from me, but also want to help me give the world. And I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful that I'm walking again. I'm really glad. So thank you for watching. I will keep updates, and I will keep making update videos about it and telling you where I'm at and how far I've come and how far I hopefully will go. And if it ever gets a diagnosis, I'll put that on here too. I just really, really, really wanted to get this video out there to help people understand my life and how things go for me. So thank you again for watching. I said that like 3 times already, but I hope you enjoyed, or at least were very interested in what's happening in my life, and I hope that you get a better understanding. And for people that I know that I've gone to school with that may not know if they watch this, I hope that you understand more of why you saw a girl walking around the hallway with a cane. And I plan on posting this in multiple places, and I really hope that it helps and makes people understand a lot more, people who know me and people who don't, on what happens and why I am the way I am now. And I just really want people to know. So thank you for watching, and please watch my other videos. Bye.